Welcome to Lawline with your host, Alan Schnorman. Mr. Schnorman is a distinguished trial attorney, author, and lecturer. Each week, Lawline will bring you the most knowledgeable experts in the field of law today. And now we introduce our guest and our host, Alan Schnorman.
Welcome to Lawline. The field of entertainment law has always held a certain amount of allure and glamour with both the legal community and the general public. Today we'll get some insight into it by speaking to an entertainment lawyer and a manager of music groups. Our guests are Mark Jacobson, counsel to the law firm of Caro, Spanbeck, Kasser, and Truffaut. Mark is also chairman of the New York State Bar Association section on entertainment, arts, and sports law. We also have Rob Koss, Director of Artist Management at Metropolitan Entertainment. Hello, Mark. Hello, Rob.
Hi. Hi, Alan.
Rob, why don't you tell me what you do as Director of Management?
Well, what we do is that we get involved as the personal managers of artists. What that really means is that we coordinate all aspects of the artist's career. We work closely with the artist on what exactly it is they want to do artistically in their career, how to choose the right record companies.
And I'm assuming you do this for a fee.
Yes, we do.
Now, why does an artist have to pay you money for this? Why can't he do it himself?
Because I think that the music business, maybe 20, 30 years ago, they may have been able to do that themselves, but it's become a multi-billion-dollar business now, and it's indeed big business. And
it's very complex as well.
It's very complex. You have the ins and outs now with all the laws and regulations that go on. And I really believe that being an artist and being creative is a full-time job.
Well, do you get the artist jobs?
We don't specifically get the artist jobs. We hire, and the artists hire together, booking agencies to actually go out and procure and solicit work. Actually, as a matter of fact, a manager is specifically prohibited by law to be an artist, be an agency.
So what stage of an artist's career does he need a firm like yours?
Well, I think almost as early as possible, because what often happens if an artist wants to wait because they don't want to give up a percentage of their income, and that's normally the way that we get paid is on a commission basis, an artist may believe that they want to save a little bit of money in the beginning, go off on their own and try to make decisions, and quite often they get themselves into, they make bad business decisions because they aren't businessmen, they're supposed to be creative. And sometimes those decisions can't be undone, and sometimes they're very expensive to get undone. And often, we believe that we can help the artists get from point A, which they are now, to point B, where they want to be, a lot faster and a lot more effective with our help.
Mark, now let's assume an artist has Rob
As a manager?
As a manager. Why does he need you?
Well, because we perform a very different function than a manager does. A manager's goal is to guide the artist's career. We're going to advise the artist on legal points in his contracts, what might make a good deal, what might make a bad deal, copyright issues with regard to ownership of songs and whether he should perform a song that someone else has recorded previously and things like that, what that might cost him.
Same question. When does the artist need your firm?
As early as possible. We would get involved even conceivably before the manager because we might be in a position to help evaluate whether a manager is a good manager for the artist. If the artist, we're talking about musical artists with Rob's case, but there are many managers who specialize in representing actors or actresses. We might be able to determine for the artist whether or not the management company is suited for the goals that he has for his career, whether they have a specialty in music or in representing actors or actresses.
Well, what happens when the artist doesn't retain a lawyer? What's the usual pitfalls?
He signs bad deals. I mean, I've seen people come to me with deals where they actually do sign with the manager and they pay a commission of 50%, which is outrageous.
What should they pay?
The range normally is between 15 and 25%.
Yeah, we as managers, I really believe that they should have the best possible representation they can afford as early as possible. Because it's in our best interest. I want a lawyer involved who I think is real competent, who I can go to for help, to work as a team. I mean, it's all about putting together a team. It's so competitive and so tough now that I really believe you've got to have a real good team. I believe there's got to be an effective manager. The artist has to truly want it, have a lot of drive. There's got to be an effective attorney who all wants the same thing, a booking agency, a record company.
Well, but you're talking about the artists who are successful, I'm assuming.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I believe that an artist who is yet to be successful but truly has talent needs to have all those components in place to take that next step. to which, the first step in becoming successful is to expose your art and your music, in my case it's music, to as many people as you can.
Well, what does an agent do?
What an agent does, an agent solicits and procures work. That's what a booking agency does. And they get paid on a commission basis to go do that.
They have a very different view than a lawyer or a manager. Their focus is extremely narrow, let's say on putting an artist on tour around the country for 6 weeks or something like that. A manager is going to have a long-term view, and a lawyer, in theory, could even have a longer-term view because he has, well, on one hand, he is subject to being terminated by the artist at any time. On the other hand, he could be with the artist for 20 years, whereas a manager has a finite period of time in which he has to do certain things and perform certain functions for the artist.
So now I have an agent,
Yes.
I have a manager,
Right.
and I have a lawyer.
Right.
Anything else that the artist needs?
Needs, very often they find themselves with business managers. If they become very successful, they make a lot of money and they need someone to collect their income, pay the bills, and invest the difference.
What's glamorous about being an entertainment lawyer?
Glamorous? It's hard work. We meet interesting people, I'll say that. I got a call yesterday from someone who appears on regularly on a TV show who wants to come and talk to me about working with her. That's fun. I get a kick out of that. It's fun to meet people. It's fun to go out to shows and feel that you're doing it in connection with earning a living. Get a kick out of that. But it's hard work. We still have to evaluate contracts.
What is your day like?
My day is spent, I would say, 10 hours a day out of the 10 or 11 I work on the telephone. It's all telephone. Talking to people, just building. It's a very relationship, dependent business. So my day, what I really spend most of my day on is on the telephone with people, trying to motivate the people who I need to motivate to help my artists, the record companies, their field staffs.
He yells at them.
Radio stations, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Thanking people. Make sure, I want them to make sure that they not only hear from me when things are bad, but when things are good.
If there are 1,000 artists out there, how many actually are making a living at this business?
I would say probably pretty close to what I believe it is in acting, which is maybe 5–10%.
I think it's very low. It's very hard to make a living at it.
Well, what's your advice to somebody who's just starting out? What's the best avenue to go?
In music, in acting, which?
You tell me.
Well, in music, is to stick to your guns, I guess, is the thing. If you feel you're going to be a strong musical success in performance art, then you should stay with it and go for it and keep going after it until such time as you really knock your head against the wall and it hurts. If you feel you can be an actor or an actress, you just keep going after it until you get the job that's going to move you forward. It's very hard to do, and sometimes you need luck, but most of the time you have to make your own luck and be persevering at it.
Rob, from your point of view, what makes an entertainer successful? How do you get into that 5 to 10%?
I believe it's really two things. It's that they have true talent and that they're unique. They do what they do, and not many other people do it. And the other thing is motivation and drive and the desire to hang in there and be willing to live on food stamps for 5–10 years if need be. If they believe in themselves bad enough, and I think Mark hit it on the head, you've got to stay what you do. I think that if people constantly try to chase the latest trends around, they end up chasing their tail.
Absolutely.
And they are no longer unique. I think they got to believe in what they do and stick to their guns and do it, and they've got to be willing to hang in there for as long as it takes to come to the surface.
Sounds like good advice. Right now we have to take a break. You're watching Lawline. Stay with us.
There's a reason people whisper when they tell you a rumor. It's because 9 times out of 10, it's not true. Take all the rumors about AIDS. People are saying you can catch AIDS from a mosquito bite or in swimming pools. The fact is there isn't a single case of AIDS on record caused by casual contact. It's up to you. You can believe the rumors, or you can get the facts.
Rumors are spreading faster than AIDS. Call your local Red Cross for the facts.
Lawyers, like medical specialists, limit their practice to certain areas of the law. At our firm, Zalman & Schnorman, we specialize in personal injury litigation. We concentrate on helping injury victims receive fair compensation, and there is no charge for our legal services unless we are successful. If you are too injured to come to our office, we will come to see you. At Zalman & Schnorman, we care about you.
And now a word from the American Lung Association. Your lungs are an incredible piece of machinery, but your lungs are also incredibly delicate. Diseases of the lung are among the most frequent causes of suffering, disability, and death in the United States. Lung cancer is now the #1 cancer killer in America among both men and women. Chronic bronchitis and emphysema are marked by chronic obstruction to the airflow. Among chronic diseases, asthma is the leading cause of school absenteeism. Yes, TB is still with us. In the past year, over 22,000 Americans have contracted TB. Lung trouble can come from the air you breathe at work, but thanks to the American Lung Association, you can breathe a little easier. They're working to fight all this lung disease. Your lungs are a miracle. Take care of your lungs. They're only human. And if my lungs weren't in great shape, I couldn't have said all this. The American Lung Association. The Christmas seal people.
Hello, you're watching Lawline. Today's show is Entertainment Law. We have Mark Jacobson, who's an entertainment lawyer, and Rob Koss, Director of Artist Management at Metropolitan Entertainment. Rob, what happens when you have a minor? How do you handle that?
Well, the way that we usually handle that is that we have to very carefully watch every single thing that we do when it comes particularly to money, to the minor. So we very closely work with Mark. And we normally have to set up some sort of separate trust account where a certain percentage of their money that they earn goes right into that account, and no one can touch the account until the artist really becomes of age.
Mark, how does that work in New York?
Well, it's in both New York and California, it's governed by law. In New York, you must have a guardianship account created in the surrogates court in New York, and basically all the money except those paid for the manager, the agent, the lawyer, is deposited into an account. That amount is all the money. There's nothing left for the child. If he wants it, he has to make an application to the judge to get it out.
Wait, let's slow down for a second. The manager, agent, you mentioned business manager, and lawyer. Well, what does somebody budget to give the manager?
Normally, it's 20%.
And the agent?
10%.
And the business manager?
5%.
And the lawyer fees are usually?
On an hourly basis, but if you budget it, you can figure somewhere under 10%.
So certainly a person has to do very well, I assume.
To make money, sure.
To make money to pay his rent and or her rent and everything else.
Absolutely. In California, though, they only take 25% of the income and put it aside under a law called the Coogan Law for Jackie Coogan.
What happens if you sign up with a manager and you're not getting anywhere with this manager? You don't like the manager, but you have a contract and it says he's got to manage me for 5 years.
If I'm representing the artist, I would have never let him sign that contract.
Naturally, but I signed it before I went to you.
Well, we try to make sure that he can get out, because if the manager isn't doing his job, then there's no point in staying with him. If he's not getting any results, then he ought to be able to leave. What we do in negotiating a contract in the beginning is we provide for a period of time within which the manager has to get, for example, a record contract. And if he gets the record contract in that period of time, he gets a longer period of time to stay with the artist.
It's got to be tied to I believe it's got to be tied to some sort of performance goals. There's 2 points of view here, one of which is maybe in this relationship the artist is truly unhappy because the manager isn't performing. And that's fair enough, and I believe that there's got to be an out there, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, no one really wants a slavery contract. I mean, the artist doesn't want to work with the manager, and me and myself as a manager, if I'm not really relating to the artist and things aren't happening, I don't want to work with them regardless of what the...
Sure, he's going to be expending resources and time in developing an artist that's not happening.
Even if I do have a contract, I would certainly talk to their lawyer, Mark, and work out a way to release the person.
Does the contract usually, is it for a period of time that you will represent this particular artist?
Yes, normally, I'd say the majority of the contracts that we do are 3-year initial terms with 2 years tacked on to the end.
Now, Rob, you only will take an artist, and again, it's on a contingent fee basis. If the artist makes money, you make money.
Right.
What do you look in the artist? What do you look for that you will know that this artist will make money?
What I try to do is look for if they've really got a unique talent. If I believe there's something about this artist that they can hang in there for a long time and have a truly long career. I'm much more interested in a, quote, artist career as opposed to just selling records in the short term. I'm very long-term oriented. I want to believe, an artist that I sign can be around for 5 or 10 years, when the norm of most careers in the music business may be 2 or 3, 4 years tops. Now
again, you only get paid if for those jobs that the artist gets during that period.
Well, it varies. During the contract negotiations that Mark and I would go through, that's one of the issues that we would talk about.
That's hotly negotiated.
Hotly negotiated. I mean, what is pretty standard is for money generated from products that are created during the term, we would get paid our commission in perpetuity. The theory there being is that we made the deals, we worked on the products that were created, so therefore we should reap the benefit of...
Such as a commercial or something of that nature?
As a record album,
Okay.
you know, commercial,
The royalties continues coming in.
publishing, absolutely.
Well, look at the Presley estate. Are you involved in the Presley estate?
Yes.
Now, their money is being made for work that was done how many years ago?
25, 30?
Sure.
And the checks still come in quarterly or so.
You bet. Big ones.
And I'm a firm believer the manager, you know, Tom Parker, in this case, or if it was myself, would absolutely, without a doubt, be entitled to commission that work in perpetuity. Because I was there when it happened, I worked it, I helped make it successful, and therefore I should reap the benefits of it.
Assuming it was all done properly. The problem is that if a manager like Rob creates an album during the course of his term, and then the artist no longer is with that manager, and he's paying Rob 20% commission on that album, there's going to be a new manager who's also going to want 20% commission. So then you have a problem where there's 40% commission being paid to managers, plus the agency, plus the business manager, plus the lawyer, and the artist is now working for everybody else.
Well, how do you handle that, Mark?
Well, you negotiate a resolution of that. What you do is you have a sliding scale, or you cut it off at a particular time, or you say, or if you're lucky and you have a lot of leverage, you say to the manager, you only collect on income earned during the term or received during the term, and you get nothing after the term.
Now, again, where does the agent fit into all this?
The way that an agent fits in is normally if an artist we represent wants to, let's say in the case of a musical group, go on the road and do live concert appearances. I'd sit down with the artist and figure out, you know, when do we want to go on tour, what cities do we want to play, where are we going to get the maximum, you know, benefit out of going on the road, what size theaters do we want to play, you know, how many people are we going to take on the road, what is the size of the production, the staging, all this. And then I call up the agent and I say, okay, this is what we want to do. I usually tell them, give them an outline of what they want to do. You know, we want to play 3,000-seat theaters like in New York, the Beacon Theater, Carnegie Hall, something like that. We want to play just major markets in America. We don't want to play, you know, tiny little cities or towns, things like that. I have to make $10,000 a night to break even. So what the agent does then is that he'll say, okay, thanks, puts down the phone, calls up. There's a network of concert promoters who work regionally, pretty much in every city in America. He'll call them all up and say, you know, Rob Costa's band, you know, the Grateful Dead, let's say, they want to go on tour.
That's who you represent, right?
Our company does, yes.
Okay.
Grateful Dead want to go on tour. They want to, you know, play these cities. They want to play, you know, I'm putting a tour together in the spring, you know, between April and June. Tell me what you have, you know. So the concert promoters will then call up all the venues, you know, the theaters and
he'll book the show. But the agent will only get paid for that particular concert tour.
It's very different for an agent
Yes.
in a
So it's more of
very
like a
specific.
gunshot. In other words, if the agent books you, he gets paid. You don't enter into a deal with an agent and say, represent me for a year. Or do you?
Well, it depends. If you're an actor or an actress, that's exactly what you do. You'll enter into an agreement based upon the Screen Actors Guild standard form or the AFTRA standard form or the Actors Equity standard form, and you'll say to the agent, represent me for a year, guide my career, in effect become an artist manager for me. And very, very often there are actors and actresses who do not have managers, they only have agents. Right. In the acting field, typically the agent fills the function of career guidance, as a manager would do in the music field.
In music, it's very different. Agents are normally hired from anywhere to 1 to 5 year terms. And the reason that an agency wants a longer term, as longest term agreement as possible is the same reason the artist is. You know, they're putting a lot of work into a band when they're brand new, and the agency gets paid on a 10% basis. So if an artist is out there making $1,000 a night, which is great for a new artist, the agency is getting $100 a night. The agency is spending more than $100 a night. I mean, they're for years probably losing money, so they want to be there when the payoff happens.
We have to take a break now, but right after the break, I want to discuss the Presley estate, if we can. You're watching Law Line. Stay with us.
My father taught me to steal and to pitch. Today I struck out 7 and stole home. I think Dad would have been proud. Coach was. He said he wished Dad had taken as good care of himself as he did of me and Billy. Billy won't talk about it, and Mom can't stop crying. I don't know what it's like to have a heart attack, except I can see it hurts. It hurts bad.
You can help prevent heart disease. We can tell you how.
If you are injured in an automobile or any type of accident, you may have the right to fair compensation for injuries, pain, and suffering, including loss of wages. So if an accident leaves you disabled or unable to return to your job, put our law firm, Zalman & Schnorman, to work for you. There is no charge for our legal services unless your case is settled or won. Call Zalman and Schnorman, who are specialists in personal injury litigation.
My father, Gordon McCrae, was one of the biggest stars in musicals. He was also an alcoholic. When I was little, I thought I could stop my dad from drinking. But only the alcoholic can do that. And finally, my father got help and stayed sober the last 7 years of his life. I was so proud of him. Alcoholism is treatable and preventable. Be alert to signs that you might need help, especially if you're the child of an alcoholic. For information, call the National Council on Alcoholism, 1-800-NCA-CALL.
Hello, you're watching Lawline. Today's topic is entertainment law. With us is Mark Jacobson, who's an entertainment lawyer, and Rob Koss, who's a manager of entertainers. We were just talking before the break about the Presley estate. What connection do you have with that?
We handle their music publishing interests.
And what does that comprise? What do you do?
Well, we had just concluded licensing or entering into agreements with sub-publishers around the world to collect income earned from performances and mechanical royalties for the Presley estate for the next 3 years.
Okay, that's for the future 3 years, but again, that's for work done years and years ago.
Well, for the creation of the copyrights that was created years and years ago, yeah. And a lot of what an entertainment lawyer does ties back into the creation of a copyrightable work, whether it be an actor or an actress or a producer or a musician. They're creating a copyright, and that copyright is an asset, just like a piece of real estate.
And preserving those rights.
And what
maximizing.
Mostly we're doing is trying to maximize the return on that. Like when you build a building and you rent out apartments, what we're doing is you build a copyright and you're renting it out as many times as possible to generate as much income as possible.
Whether it's tapes, CDs, or anything of that nature.
Or performances on TV shows, cable shows.
Radio, everything.
Performances, live performances, or the rental of a video cassette, or the sale of a video cassette in the various territories, or the licensing of a motion picture for display in theaters or on TV, etc.
Certainly among the largest growth in the music business in the last couple of years has been in the area of publishing. I mean, you see it in some of the huge acquisitions and mergers that have happened. In the music business, just the huge potential there is in music publishing.
Well, not only music publishing, but I see that some of the wealthiest people in America today are entertainers. Cosby is rumored to make over $100 million a year.
It's because he owns the piece of the show.
Because he owns part of the copyright.
Right, exactly. He's not paid a weekly salary. I mean, his corporation, his loan-out corporation probably does, but he's the majority shareholder in that show, I'm sure. So, as Mark said, he owns the copyright.
Well, how does an entertainer get to that point
Leverage.
where they can...
He's got enough leverage in his career where he can do that. It's the same thing with some of the artists that we represent. With an established, musical group, we can go into a record company and say, okay, we're going to renegotiate this contract now, guys, and we want this, we want a higher royalty rate, and we want the rights to revert back to us after a certain amount of years so we can license again to someone else and get paid over and over again for the same product, and it's all a matter of leverage. I could never do that with a new group, but with established groups we can.
I was once told by someone that every manager at heart is really an entertainer.
I'd say there's a lot of truth in that. I think that a lot of people in the music business, myself included, have played musical instruments, played in bands before, grew up as true music lovers, and yeah, I believe that it's a business to which to succeed as an entertainer, you've got to have a good, healthy ego, and I believe the same thing is also true of being a manager and an agent.
Now, let's assume there's somebody out there who's just written a song and they know this is a beauty, this is going to be a hit. What should they do?
I think what they should probably do is try to pinpoint who this is going to be a beauty for. Is it something that they envision for themselves, or did they write it with a specific artist in mind? And if they wrote it with a specific artist in mind, well, in either case, they should immediately copyright it to protect themselves, which is very easy, just filling out a form and sending it to the Library of Congress. And second of all is find out how they can get it to that performer. Through the record company, through their, find out who their manager is, find out who their lawyer is, and send it to them.
Mark, what's your advice?
Exactly the same. Make sure you keep a copy of it, send it to these people, make sure that they know that it's around, and try and circulate it as much as possible. If it's a country song, you get it to a country artist. If it's a metal song, you get it to a metal band.
Let's take the idea of somebody, it's not a song, but I've just written a play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've never written a play before or a book. Well, what do I do to protect myself?
Well, Let's take a screenplay, which is the most interesting one, if I may. A screenplay, you can not only file a copyright claim in the Library of Congress, but you can also register it at the Writers Guild of America, even though you're not a member of the Writers Guild. And what that does is establish that the screenplay existed as of a particular day, which is important in the event you bring a lawsuit later on because someone took your ideas or someone stole the screenplay. As to a play or a book, you need to file the form with the Copyright Office, pay a $10 fee, and you'll have copyright protection. Then what you need to do is find a publisher or a producer who's going to produce your book or
When you
play.
have copyright protection, what does that mean?
It means that, well, it's a bundle of rights, if you will. It means that you have the exclusive right to copy it, you have the exclusive right to distribute it, you have the exclusive right to publicly perform it, and there are other rights that come from it. And no one else can use those rights without your permission. And if they do, they're liable to you for infringement, heavy damages, injunctions, things like that. Art Buchwald brought a suit against Eddie Murphy for
Coming to America.
Coming to America, because he said it was his idea.
And what happened on that?
But it's still pending, from what I understand.
What does play or pay mean?
What it means is that when an artist is in a highly leveraged position, which means that he's got a lot of clout here, if he is hired to do something, in the case of a recording artist, to make a record, and the record company decides, well, we don't like this record, and the artist says, I'm sorry, this is what I do, you got to pay me anyhow. That's basically what it is. You know, it's the same for an actor in a field that I have very little expertise in. You know, it's the kind of thing where, okay, if we want Meryl Streep to do this movie with us, and Meryl Streep's agent has enough clout to say, okay, we'll put the time on hold for you, and this is great, you know, we'll set this aside, and we are ready, willing, and able to shoot this movie at this time period, and if for a myriad of reasons it doesn't happen, you still have to pay her.
The second part of that is the play part, which means that even if you don't play the actor or actress in the play or the screenplay or the motion picture, you still have to pay them.
What happens if an actor contracts to do a play and they decide, I don't want to do it? Can you force the actor to do it?
Well, no, that's unconstitutional, as we know as lawyers, but what you can do is you can secure damages from the actor or actress in the event that it caused the show to go down.
Rob, what would you like to tell any new actors out there or any experienced actors? What information can you give them?
To be totally honest, actors isn't something I have a lot of expertise in.
Artists.
Artists. Okay, I was just going to say, I would liken it to artists. I think that the most important thing to keep in mind is never forget why you started doing it in the first place. You know, it's so easy as an artist in a musical group, it's deeper and deeper into the music business to get bogged down and lose sight of the fact that they truly love music.
Mark, in summation?
For artists or actors and actresses, I would just keep plugging at it. Keep trying to find a good agent, try to get that role in a soap opera, try to get a few commercials. I think you do fine eventually.
Mark Jacobson, Robert Koss, thank you very much for appearing on Lawline. This is Alan Schnorman, and thank you for watching Lawline.
You have been watching Lawline with your host, New York trial attorney, author and lecturer, Alan Schnorman. Mr. Schnorman will be back with you next week at the same time. If you have any questions or comments about this week's program, please write to Lawline, 27th floor, 63 Wall Street, New York, New York, 10005.